So, Ryan, you and I have been reluctant to talk about the big injured elephant in the room, Tony Romo, and that's for a reason. I think that Tony Romo is done as an above-average quarterback in the NFL, and this fervor that exists around him here in Denver is kind of upsetting to me on a number of fronts, because I think signing Romo would be a tremendous mistake for the Denver Broncos. It would stall the growth of your first-round quarterback in Paxton Lynch, and it would make you, I think the most bothersome thing to me is if I'm a Broncos fan, are the Broncos just going to be the team that picks up 36-year-old quarterbacks every 3 years from now until the end of time? No, you can't be that team. You eventually have to find your guy. Yes, I understand. We have a championship defense. We're in a win now mentality. But you know what? You can win now with the quarterback you picked in the first round. And if you can't do it, that's on you. Mm-hmm. You shouldn't have to keep bringing in Band-Aids, John Elway. Right. Pick the guy, run with the guy you picked, and don't bring in a guy who the last 2 times he's been hit, he's been injured. Tony Romo would be a mistake for the Broncos, and it'd probably be a pretty costly mistake.
I think the fervor comes from, again, this issue that Broncos fans that I have just noticed that they have with familiarity. They just would choose familiarity over anything else.
That's stupid.
I agree. But they saw it work with Peyton Manning. So they think it can work with Tony Romo. Once Tony Romo wins a Super Bowl with us, then we'll do it with Drew Brees.
Tony Romo is not Peyton Manning.
No, absolutely not. But I think the issue is that they think that the only reason the Broncos didn't win back-to-back Super Bowls was the quarterback position.
That's a bunch of nonsense.
I agree. There is no reason to even think of looking at Tony Romo unless Romo goes to John Elway and says, I'm going to take a backup salary and be the backup. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. And if Romo comes to the Broncos, I don't see Romo, Simeon, and Lynch on the same roster. One of those is not there.
And in that case, we all know who the odd man out has to be.
Right. Well, most fans don't think that. Most fans think Paxton Lynch would be the third quarterback, and then it would be Trevor Simeon or Tony Romo, whoever got it. And it's just not true. You get Romo or Simeon. I'm sorry. I think Lynch is the untouchable one in this scenario.
If you bring Romo in, Trevor Simeon is gone.
Bingo.
But I don't think they should bring Romo in. I think Romo would be, like I said, a huge mistake for the organization, because you're bringing in a guy who hasn't played any kind of quality football in almost, 2 years now?
Well, they'll point to the one drive he had last year in Week 17. They'll point to that one. Don't you remember?
Nonsense.
I know, but we're talking to fanatics. Like, we have to get into the mind of a fanatic and think the way they do, and that's why the fervor is so there.
It's not, everybody seems to think that Tony Romo is going to be the savior for the Broncos, that you add Tony Romo and all of a sudden they're a Super Bowl contending team.
He hasn't been the savior for the Cowboys.
It's a nonsense take to me, right, Ryan, because people aren't using the evidence of their own eyes in front of them. The last time Tony Romo has been hit, the last time he's been touched
right
on a football field, he has been injured.
Yes.
Seriously.
Absolutely. And like we were just talking about right before this, he's not going to have a great offensive line in front of him. He got injured with the Cowboys offensive line. Like, what more protection can you get?
Yeah.
So, yes, we should drop Romo, because again, we should drop the conversation of Romo as the starter next year, leading us to another championship. Again, I think many people would be open to him being the backup, paying him backup money.
That's not what's going to happen.
I agree.
If Romo comes here, he comes here under the auspice that you're going to be the starter, and we'll sit Paxton Lynch for 2 more years, which is the thing that I think frustrates me most about this. Paxton Lynch is not
for Brock Osweiler. Oh, wait. Good point. Didn't.
There's one example in the entire history of the National Football League
right,
where sitting a quarterback this long worked.
And that's the only example.
Every other one, it's stunted their growth. It's made them older. He's getting older. He's getting slow. I mean, he's not old and slow now, but as he ages, he's getting older, he's getting slower, and he will learn a hell of a lot more. You ask any NFL player,
right,
do you learn more sitting or do you learn more playing? You learn more playing. And I know it's a tough pill to swallow. We're filming this right now, Brian.
Right.
Ryan, so I have to say this. Broncos fans, I know it's a tough pill to swallow. I understand you want to compete for a Super Bowl every year, but if you want to win championships consistently and return to being you liked the Peyton Manning era, you liked how good your team was during that 4-year stretch, you want to get back to that eventually, you have to deal with a couple of down years.
Right.
That's the way that the NFL works, and fans have to get that through their thick skulls if this is going to work. I get so fired up about this, Ryan, because you're letting a first-round draft pick, whether or not he's going to ever work out for you or not, that's beside the point. But you're not even willing to take the gamble and find out. You invested in this kid.
Right.
You invested in him, and he's not going to learn a damn thing sitting on the bench with a clipboard in his hand. Right. And if you bring Tony Romo in, it just stalls him for another year to two, or until, Tony Romo breaks his neck again, and you're dealing with that whole situation. It's a disastrous thing for the Denver Broncos to sign Tony Romo.
While you catch your breath, I'll make 2 points.
That out. I felt good.
The 1 point, let's go back to Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
The exceptional exception, as we'll call him. People think he's only good because he sat. I think if they started him his rookie year, I still think they would have the same success he's shown right now. I truly do. I don't see why just because he sat an extra 3 years, that made him the all-pro quarterback that he is. Now, continuing to where you were going, and I'm already forgetting the last point you made.
Romo injury history, Romo stunting Paxton Lynch's growth.
Stunning Paxton Lynch's growth. I don't. How do you learn to ride a bike? Do you learn watching someone? You learn watching your little brother or your big brother ride a bike? No, you get on your bike, you fall on your face.
Yeah, you get on your bike, your dad tells you he's going to hold on, and then he pushes you down the street and runs away laughing. That's how you learn.
Exactly.
And you fall down a few times.
Exactly. And I think it is. I think it's the win now mode. I think it's the no plan B that fans still have stuck in their brain that think we need to win now because it's going to be 20 years until we win another Super Bowl. Not really.
No.
If you develop your franchise quarterback, essentially in possibly 2 to 3 years, if you groom him correctly and you get him to the quarterback that I think we all see the potential that he has, then yes, it'll take maybe 2 to 3 years for you to have a chance to win a Super Bowl for the next decade. That's where we're trying to get.
That's the goal here, folks.
That's the goal.
That's the goal. Thank you.
And Ryan, if you take the 2 years to find out that Paxton Lynch isn't that guy, you wasted no time finding out that he isn't that guy. You didn't sit him on the bench for 2 years and then say, well, let's hope he's ready. And then when he's not, again, that's where we're talking about the waste of the 2 years coming in. You play him and you find
out. If you waste 2 years on another 36, 37-year-old quarterback, you're going to have to go down the same road again in another 3 years.
Exactly.
It's a disastrous policy for the Broncos to just continue to cycle these old men through the quarterback position. And look, Peyton Manning is a special exception. Right. I've said it before. For me, Peyton Manning's the best quarterback that's ever played the game. And I know that that gets a lot of heat, but it's for a reason. And it's mostly because of the second act that he had in Denver. Mm-hmm. Coming off that neck surgery, he was not supposed to do the things that he did. He couldn't even hold a football. But people will point to Manning because of that and say, oh, well, he overcame injury. Romo will overcome injury too. Here's the thing. Manning had not missed a single snap of an NFL game prior to that injury.
Manning would be in the Hall of Fame if he had retired that year.
Yeah. Peyton Manning was not injury prone.
Right.
Peyton Manning had one injury that he had surgery for. The surgery's kind of screwed up his neck and he had to take a year off. That's what wound up happening. Tony Romo, this is a trend.
Right.
This is not just a trend. It's a habit now that he has of getting himself seriously injured. If he were to come to Denver, it would be probably pretty expensive.
Yes.
We're probably looking at he'd certainly be the highest paid quarterback on the team. Mm-hmm. What would you think? 3-year deal, with no guaranteed money in the last year, maybe 10 total per year and maybe like 16 total guaranteed overall.
Yeah.
That may be way out of the ballpark. I have to go look, but it's not going to be a super high dollar deal, but it's going to be enough money that it's going to hinder you in other places. People talk about wanting to throw money on the offensive line, want to throw money at the defensive line.
It's not there.
It's not there if you bring in a guy like Tony Romo when you have a guy already on your roster who you've invested that first round pick in Paxton Lynch. Are people concerned that he might not be ready? Yeah, but you know what gets him ready? You start him on Sundays.